Good morning, I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News Now, coming to you from our digital desk. We're about to take you into court in Lake County for the sentencing of this young man, 18-year-old Keyshawn Howard. You might remember this case. It's from back in March at the Willoughby South High School. I'm going to show you this video. It is surveillance video from the high school itself. Keep an eye on the hall monitor right there to the left of your screen. That is Keyshawn that shoved him out of the way of the bathroom. This was a smoking or vaping in the boys' room situation. When the hall monitor was trying to keep them there, Keyshawn wanted to leave, shoved the hall monitor, a 69-year-old man. He was later diagnosed with a concussion and a cut to the back of your head. As you can see, paramedics had to come and administer aid and get him to the hospital. Today, we're going to get the sentencing of Keyshawn. This has drug on for quite a while. He finally pleaded guilty to attempted felony assault. It was a lesser charge. It was a deal that was given to him by the prosecutor, and it took quite a while for he and his family to agree. Let's take you live now into the sentencing. It does appear that we're waiting for the all rise, and there it is.
See you, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this morning's case, Section State of Ohio versus Keyshawn Howard, case number 23CR000423. We were last here back in September for a change of plea, which time the defendant entered a written and oral plea of guilty to amended count 1, that being attempted felonious assault in violation of Ohio Revised Code Section 2923.02 and 2903.11A1, that being a felony of the 3rd degree. The case is referred for a pre-sentence report and investigation, a drug and alcohol evaluation, and victim impact statement. Court set sentencing for today. We are here today for purposes of sentencing. And the defendant is present with his counsel, Mrs. Mary Springer.
Ms. Springer?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. The defendant is prepared to proceed with sentencing today as well. We have had the opportunity to review the pre-sentence report. Mr. Howard would ask the court to sentence him to a term of community control sanctions. He is 18 years old. He does not have an adult criminal record, although he recognizes that he does have a few misdemeanor convictions on his juvenile record. Foremost, Mr. Howard wants to accept responsibility and recognize that his behavior in this case impacted the victim greatly. And in the days immediately preceding the event, he did write a letter to the victim apologizing for allowing him to get his anger to get the best of him and for impacting him in this way. And Mr. Howard recognizes that the victim was in his free time, I believe after his retirement, helping out at the school by being a hall monitor, and that Mr. Howard's anger should not have left him in a place where that he was harmed when he was doing that. And so for that, he is truly remorseful and he regrets it deeply. And in order to show the court that Mr. Howard has a couple things to say himself, but in addition to that, we have provided the court with a number of character letter references, including from a therapist, Tiffany Smith, at Behavioral Health. She recognizes that Keyshawn has shown a lot of progress in dealing with his past traumas and anger issues, and that he is being very open and honest throughout his therapy and has been compliant with his medication. We've also sent a letter from a number of different family members, and he has a lot of support in the courtroom here today as well, Your Honor. There is also a letter from a prior teacher of Mr. Howard's. He did graduate from high school, and we just want the court to consider those things when crafting his sentence in this case. Mr. Howard knows that his actions here were really terrible, and he wants to make sure that something like this does never happen again, and that he is going to continue to have a law-abiding life, and that's something that he's striving for every day. He is working at this time. He works at Swenson's. He lives locally in Lake County with his mother, and his twin brother, who again are his biggest support systems. So Mr. Howard would ask the court to sentence him to community control. He's more than willing to comply with any conditions that the court would place on him, including participating in programming, anger management, therapy, any sort of things that the court deemed would be appropriate for him. He is more than willing to comply with. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence?
I would like to first off apologize to Mr. Val for my action, and it wasn't a good reputation of my character, and I am deeply sorry. I let my anger and emotion take control that day, and moving forward, I won't let that happen again because it's serious. Life is serious. No, I'm not a kid no more, and I just gotta take it as a life lesson. Moving forward, that's it.
Well, why did you, why don't you tell me what happened that day?
Okay, so it was in the 7th period. I went to the bathroom. I could meet my girlfriend in the hallway, use the bathroom, wash my hands, and when I come to the door, I see Mr. Val.
What was going on in the bathroom when you were in there?
I don't really know. I was in the last stall, so I went to the last stall, used the bathroom, got out, washed my hands. I'll be in and out. I just
What happened when you left the bathroom?
When I left the bathroom, I saw Mr. Val at the door, and I asked him like, "Can you move? Like, excuse me."
Where in the door was he?
Like right in front of the door, like facing his back.
In the hallway?
In the hallway.
Inside the bathroom?
Inside the bathroom door, like blocking the door, bathroom door. And I told him like, "Excuse me," and I guess he didn't hear me, so I said it again. And then I said it the third time, and I tapped him like, "Excuse me," and there was a guy in front of me, and he was like, "I think he's trying to get out the bathroom," and he turned towards me and looked. And at that moment, I became, I don't know, like anxious or like frustrated, and I don't know how to explain like my emotions at the moment. And then the bell had rung, so that's when I became, I guess, frustrated and confused. I guess my anxiety was out the roof, and I was reacting off emotions. I told him again, like, "Can you please move? I'll push you." Like, I think I said that to him, and I ended up pushing him, and went to study hall. And yeah, that's what happened.
Well, what did he say to you when you were, when what you told me is you asked him a number of times, "Please move." What did he say to you?
He never said. I think he turned back and said, "I'll move when I want to." Like, I'm pretty sure that's what he said. But I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
So how did he end up on the ground?
I pushed him.
You pushed him pretty hard.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think I pushed him that hard. It was like a.
He's not a small man.
He's not. Yeah.
And it was a violent fall that he took.
Yeah.
And see, I know you wrote that letter to him right after.
Because I honestly felt sorry, and if I knew he was injured when I pushed him initially, I would have attended to him. I would have ran right to him. But I guess my emotions and at the moment was just it wasn't in the right state.
Well, I'm a little confused about what actually happened because you said one thing in a letter that you sent to him, and then when you wrote your version of what happened for the pre-sentence report, you said that you kindly asked "excuse me" to Mr. Valley 3 times and no response. Hold on. I'll let you respond. So that's how you phrased what happened. Then you pushed him. Never intended to cause him any harm. And when you spoke with Ms. Randallson for the interview, you said that she tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me." So the man continued to stand blocking the exit. He once again asked him to move. And then what you told Ms. Randallson is that Mr. Valley said, "I'll move when I fucking want to." Is that what he said to you?
He said something in that regard.
Okay, so
I'll move when I want to.
Okay. And then you pushed him. Okay. So what did you want to say?
I wanted to say I did kindly ask him multiple times. I guess when I became to get more frustrated is when the bell rung, and I was kind of confused on why he still got me in the bathroom and then not telling me why. I guess that's when I kind of lost control of my emotions.
So your response to being held up there along with other people was to shove him out of the way and go on about your business. When you shoved him, what happened? What did you see him do?
When I shoved him, I didn't even really see him fall. I walked straight to upstairs. Like it was like I just did it. I didn't really think to for me to check on him. It was just in the moment.
So what's the appropriate penalty for something like this? What do you think the appropriate penalty is?
I don't think something like this should be taken kindly, but I understand moving forward this will never happen again, and I have been taking therapy to work on my anger and my emotions and better ways to cope with disagreements or things that I've been working on coping on my anger and emotions. And I honestly don't think this will happen again, but I don't think this should be taken lightly because he did receive serious injuries. And I got grandparents. I used to take care of my grandparents, so just knowing if somebody did that to them, it's not good and it shouldn't be done. That's taken lightly. So yeah, I understand my actions, and I know they wasn't good, and I'm just gonna learn from them. That's all I can do, Judge.
All right, anything else you want to tell me?
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak. That's it, Judge.
All right, Ms. Linden?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm not sure. I think the victim might want to say something. Mr. Vile, did you want to speak?
Your Honor, I'm James Vile. I was the one that was attacked. I'm still suffering from that day. Concussions, dizzy, nervousness. I've got an elbow that has yet to be treated. Hurts every day. So I'm ongoing living that all the time, every day. And I stood in the hallway as part of my job at Norway because they've had vandalism and marijuana and smoking in the restroom. There was 12 in there when I stepped up, and then 6 of them left right away. The other ones were hanging around. That day I got a poke in the chest, and the next thing I know, I was shoved across the hall. Then I woke up in the emergency room. So that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, there was a video of what had happened, and there are 2 screenshots from that I have where you can actually see what's happened. And the interesting part to me is that there's really only one student that's standing there that seems concerned, which is extremely frustrating from the state's perspective that people didn't rush to his aid, but clearly it's just a bunch of people walking away from what happens. And it's clear from looking at Mr. Vile, and it's clear from these screenshots too, that when you have somebody of Mr. Vile's stature, and we're not talking about someone who's really, really short. It's not a long way to the ground there, but for Mr. Vile, certainly it is, and his elbow is pretty significantly swollen still, if the court could see that. In terms of looking at his history, the thing that is significant about the history, although he doesn't have an adult history, he hasn't been an adult very long, but his juvenile history, the fact that there was the charge of riot, misdemeanor of the first degree, and some disorderly conducts as well, to me says that this is not really the first time that he's engaged in behavior where he's not exactly being polite, put it that way. I find it very, very suspect and difficult to believe that Mr. Vile would have dropped the F-bomb, especially being a hall monitor. My understanding is that he's worked for the railroad for years and years and years. He's retired. He's working there part-time. He's just doing his job. He smelled marijuana and some vaping going on in the restroom, and he was simply doing his job. I would point out that the defendant did, in fact, test positive for marijuana during the screens. He did admit that he's used alcohol before, not necessarily on the date of this incident. But looking at that and looking at the fact that under the factors under 29, 29, 12, B, C, D, and E, we have someone who suffered significant harm. As Mr. Vile indicated, he still has that swelling. When I asked him about how his head was doing, he said it's better on the outside, but on the inside, he still is having issues and some dizziness as well. And this has been since March. Although there's not a significant history, I think the facts and circumstances here and the way that Mr. Vile was treated, there has to be consequences, and there does need to be jail time as a result of that. I don't know necessarily that this is a case where we would be arguing for a prison term, but the injuries were significant, and that definitely should be taken into consideration. And the fact that the defendant's version has changed several times, the version that seems to make sense is that a bunch of people were vaping in the bathroom. Mr. Vile called him on it. The defendant came up to him, wanted him to get out of the way, poked him in the chest, and then shoved him to the ground. That's what makes sense. So I would just ask you to take those things into consideration. The defendant does have 2 days of credit for time served. Thank you.
All right, now, Mr. Howard, when Ms. Linden said what she believes is the accurate version of the offense, it included poking Mr. Vile in the chest and then shoving him, and you obviously disagree with that, right?
I disagree with that and the vaping part. Never vape, never smoke.
All right, so it happened one way or the other, right? It didn't happen the way that Mr. Vile described it and the way that you described it. Couldn't, right? Couldn't have happened both ways. All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report. And I reviewed the drug and alcohol evaluation. I reviewed the victim impact statement, the letters that were sent to me in support of Mr. Howard. I considered all aspects of 29-29-11, 29-29-12, and 29-29-13. It's very disturbing to me that Mr. Vile is there working part-time in the school with very specific duties, is trying to comply with those duties in light of the problems that had been occurring there that he described when he spoke. And in enforcing what he believed were his duties, which were to get the administration folks involved after notifying them what he witnessed. In the scope of doing those duties, he's assaulted. I don't believe for a minute that you said, "Excuse me, sir," 3 times and asked him politely to move. I don't believe that Mr. Vile said, "I'll move when I fucking want to move." Okay? I don't believe your version of the events. It doesn't make any logical sense. Obviously, there was a serious injury suffered by Mr. Vile as a result of what you did, and solely as a result of what you did. He bears no responsibility in the injuries that occurred to him. Now, on a positive note to your situation, you, at least as the information I have, begun to address those problems. It's a good thing you're doing it at 18 and not wait until you're 28. Okay, because I see plenty of people in here in their 50s and 60s doing the same thing they were doing when they were 14, 15, and 18, and they haven't changed a bit. So the question is whether you're going to change how you conduct yourself when you are, and I'm going to say challenged, okay, because that's what this was, challenged to conduct yourself within the confines of the rules. And the rules of this, in this case, were the rules of South High School. And you didn't conduct yourself anywhere near the way you were supposed to conduct yourself. So in consideration of everything that I've indicated and also what you have said here today, what Mr. Weil has said here today, what council has said today, I'm going to find you amenable to community control. I'm going to place you on community control for 5 years. You're going to serve 90 days in a Lake County jail with credit for 2. And it's my determination that that's the appropriate penalty for what occurred. The last 30 days are going to be you're going to enter into and complete the jail treatment program because by your own admission, you've been smoking marijuana since you were 14. The only reason I did not revoke your bond when you tested positive on the referral was because I wanted to wait to see what the levels would be when you came back for your interview, and they dropped. So that's why your bond wasn't revoked. But you're going to complete that program and follow all the recommendations. You're going to continue your treatment with I believe it's Ohio Guidestone. Follow all those recommendations. You're to have no drugs or alcohol, and you'll be screened in order to enforce that order. You're to obtain and maintain full employment. You're to have no contact with Mr. Weil. And you're going to pay the costs and supervision fees associated with this case. Ms. Randallson, any other terms you think are applicable?
Yes, Your Honor. He's going to do 90 days in the jail. We thought that decision point would be a good idea.
All right, you're going to enter into and complete the decision points program. You understand all the terms? If you fail to comply with the terms, any of the terms, the state will file a motion to terminate your community control. And if I find you violated the terms of your community control, then you face potentially 36 months in prison. Do you understand that? All right. Is the PRC 1 to 3 or is it 2?
I believe it's 1 to 3.
All right, and if as a result of a violation, a prison sentence is imposed, and when you get out, you'll be on post-release control for at least a year, up to 3 years under the parole authority. They will place conditions on you. If you violate their conditions, they could return you to prison for up to 9 months for each of your violations, up to 1/2 of my sentence. If your violation is a new felony, you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for the violation, the maximum of which would be the greater of 12 months or the time you have left under post-release control. Is there anything further, Ms. Linden? Ms. Springer? All right, we're adjourned.
All right. Dan DeRose with 19 News. As we see Keyshawn Howard put into handcuffs, sentenced to 90 days in jail for the attack on the hall monitor. The last 30 days of that jail sentence will be treatment for his self-admitted participation in smoking weed. Claims in the pre-sentence report that he's been smoking weed since he was 14. You see family members there saying their last goodbyes. Again, this is a short stint in jail, but for an 18-year-old, it has to be a little bit scary. and for family members who brought him to court this morning but will not be leaving with him. He will spend 60 days in jail and then 30 days in a treatment program. But then, boy, the ability to keep his nose clean for 5 years, that is the probation. He violates that probation, he gets 3 years in prison. So that'll be the test for Keyshawn Howard. We heard from the victim. The hall monitor you're going to see get shoved to the ground there by Keyshawn Howard. The judge, boy, even using an expletive in court, that doesn't happen very often. When it comes to the explanation, Keyshawn Howard trying to say that the hall monitor said that he would leave when he's blanking ready, or get out of the way when he's blanking ready. And the judge repeated that, so we apologized. This was live, that the judge was able to use that language, but just repeating what Keyshawn had put in the report, and the judge said he didn't buy that, that the two stories don't add up, and that he did not think that the victim in this case would have used that language as a hall monitor. The judge could have asked the victim. He was right there. I'm not sure why the judge didn't ask, but again, this wasn't a trial. That's something that would have happened at trial. This was a sentencing. We did get an apology from Keyshawn Howard. He did turn to the victim and say it to him, as well as wrote him a letter after the attack. But again, 90 days in jail. We're going to wrap this up. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be right here on our digital platforms. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.
19 News is everywhere.